I know I joke about not being invited to things, but then I get invited to things and then I make videos, which is why I don't get invited to other things. That's it. That's my intro. Hi, I'm Amanda, you're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about Anime Impulse / SneakerCon / K-pop what's it called? K-Play Fest OC 2023. I have heard previously about Anime Impulse. However, I was not going to go to Anime Impulse because I didn't know it was happening. What happens a lot with events is that I hear about them years past, okay? Like after they've happened and I see a video clip, whether it's insane or not, I'm just like, oh, that could be fun. I wish I would have known about that. And then I put it in my calendar or I forget, or like by the time I think about it, then it hasn't been scheduled for the following year yet. So I don't think to be like, oh my gosh, I need a ticket to that. However, someone from the Anime Impulse team, I don't want to say your name in case this video gets you in trouble. So about like 10 days before the actual con, I received an email saying that they would like for me to come for fun. And I'm making a video because I'm incapable of not working. There are things that I go to for fun. I do enjoy attending conventions. And I do enjoy anime. But I also like making content. It's kind of like when you start doing acting classes and you start watching movies and you're like, oh God, this isn't good anymore. You know, like it's a problem, okay? I go to too many events where I critique things. So it's almost impossible for me now to go to an event and not think about how we could make things better. I'm gonna end up on a watch list. So I was invited. I said yes, and they sent me 3 passes, which I was going to give to Anarchy and her boyfriend Chris. They're cosplay creators. And then Chris couldn't go because of work. And then Anarchy got invited also to go. And so she was like, oh, invite someone else. And so I invited 2 other people. One of them straight up said no. And then the other one wanted to. And then Dea was like, I don't want to make the drive. And I was like, you know what? That's valid. And then Anarchy ended up not being able to go. So I was there alone again, like always. It's fine. It's fun. I met a lot of you guys. There's a lot of you guys there. And once again, a lot of you guys in the artist alley, which is very funny. So many of you guys were like, yeah, I watched your video where you talked about artists watching you as background noise. And oh my God, I was literally doing that when you said that. It's always very fun to meet viewers, especially at events like this. And the amount of you that are like, I didn't think you would come. Assume that I'm crazy, okay? I literally came back from my vacation the day before. This is at the same venue as VidCon is every year, Anaheim VidCon. And so I'm very familiar with the venue. As you guys, some of you know, I am from Orange County, specifically Tustin. This city left off all the lists, okay? But I've lived pretty much all over Orange County because my parents had a messy divorce. They had split custody and the divorce bankrupted all of us. And so therefore we moved around a lot. So I've lived all over Orange County. I've come to the realization that I sprinkle in bits of my trauma into conversations the way that a child shows you the worms they keep in their pocket. So my friend and I now do this whenever I drop dramatic lore, handing over the worms. I realized that I had been given a guest / vendor pass, and it just said go straight to the entrance and all this stuff. And so I got my ticket. Tickets are typically $40 from what I can tell for the weekend. So a very reasonable rate for a 2-day event, in my opinion. There are a couple of different in-person paid events, like ticketed events inside the venue, which we will talk about. I did not get to go and see any of those, so I can't really talk about like what happened inside those things. I was told after I confirmed with the person that invited me, they said, yeah, so we give out badges, but they're like keepsakes. Basically, they said in the email, we do not have badge pickup like events like AX, so as long as you have your PDF, you're good to go. We do have commemorative badges that are meant to be more like souvenirs for attendees. These badges are not to be used for entry exiting. So this was VIP. This was handed to me by this person when I saw them when I got there. And then there was also this one that I was given, which is like the commemorative one, okay, that has Anime Impulse, Sneaker Expo, and K-Play Fest. As someone who hoards these, okay, like they're gold, I love this. This is fun. I think this is, for me, it's like a personal little thing. I have a big plan to like frame them at some point. I want to kind of make like a little coffee table book of all my badges and wristbands because I've hoarded all of them, because what's the point of hoarding them if I can't, find a way to make it pretty for myself and maybe monetize it for you guys. I don't know. But I've been to plenty of events where having one of these is your ticket in and out once you've scanned your ticket, okay? And that's for ease of entry, that's for speed. And I get it. I could hand this to someone else and they could get in. But then that's why you do it in conjunction with, like, say, a wristband, okay? One that you can't tighten or take off or rip off or cut or whatever. You know, I just think there are things like that prevent the extra hassle and potential, let's say, Wi-Fi issues, scanning issues. This ticket was scanned 3 times, which I did hear someone say. They had stamps, which have since washed off, but they had stamps that I got as a vendor guest badge. Every time I went in, they would stamp me, but they were typically when you were leaving, if you were going to go get food from the food trucks outside, you would get a stamp to come in and out, and that was your ticket in and out. You know, a wristband I just think is one and done. I think there's a lot of issues with constantly having to scan a ticket each day, you know, and that's just me. I get the stamps day of, but I don't know. I think there's potential issues there, and that's something that's avoidable. Day of, I parked there. Parking was a nightmare. Not their fault. Basically, it's a Saturday for the first day. It's near Disneyland. It was like hot, but it was supposed to be slightly cooler than it had been, which it wasn't. It ended up being muggy as hell. And then not only was Anime Impulse Sneaker Expo K-Play Fest happening in this one venue, another part of the convention center was booked up by the Burbank Card Show. So when I came in, they were like, oh, you booked for the card event. I was like, oh no, Anime Impulse. I was like, yeah. So that's where we're heading right now. So we're going to Sneaker Expo, K-Fest, and Anime Impulse this way. Here we go. So at VidCon, there's usually the building that's used for registration is where the Burbank Card Show was. Now, their line was also long as hell. So as I was walking, I was like, am I supposed to get in this line? But no, the line for Anime Impulse was inside the convention center. So I have a guest and a vendor ticket. I don't know if I'm supposed to be in this line because it says to go up. Okay, so that's attendee gate. I'm a guest / vendor, so I don't know what I'm doing. We're going to find out right now. An adventure. So the convention center is gigantic, okay? It's massive. One section is usually kind of blocked off for like the meet and greet area and all of that at VidCon. And then there's like 2 major areas for the convention. And then like a 4th area is typically used for was typically used this past year for more panels and speakers and things like that. This time, that final section, it seems, was actually used to corral the line. So like you got in line for the attendee line and then it looped in and snaked around and then out. Get inside, find the info desk, walk up, and I'm like, hey, is there anything else I need? And they're like, no, but here's this. And then I saw the person that had invited me. I said hi. They gave me the VIP badge. And I walked around and was like just trying to familiarize myself with the area. So some of the footage you're going to see, it's very empty. And that's because I'm there before anyone else. And typically when this happens, when I'm like one of the first people in or I get early access to something, I like to just go and familiarize myself with things, especially when vendors are clearly setting up. I don't want to be in anyone's way. So I'm really just kind of sticking to the middle of the aisles and moving around and getting some clips of the space to familiarize myself with it so that once it does get more packed, I know where things are. And I'm seeing a lot of people are not close to being done setting up. And a lot of people are done setting up, but there was a lot of people who weren't. 11:05 rolls around, 11:15. All right, so it's 11:24, and they just did an announcement over the intercom asking that all vendors have setup completed as soon as possible so they can let attendees in. This was supposed to start at 11, so that doesn't exactly bode well. But you know, a late start is a late start. There could be a bunch of different factors. We shall see what those are. I don't know. At one point, I went to go check out the food area and I was like, God, you know, the doors are going to open any minute. I should get food now because it's almost lunchtime and I should eat something. And so I got the bento box and I ate that and then I kept walking. And then the doors ended up finally opening at like 11:50. As I'm there as well, I'm checking Twitter to see like if anyone's upset. And a few people were annoyed, but most people were like, it looks like they oversold. Like filming the crowds for the lines to get in and everything because they're assuming that's what it is. They're assuming there's too many people. That's why they're not opening the doors. Throughout the day, I ended up, like I said, getting recognized by quite a few vendors and by quite a few artists in the artist alley, and quite a few of them basically explained what had been going on. So what had happened, from what I can gather from a couple of different stories, vendors were told to use lot 4 to come in. Now, apparently as well, the loading dock to get things in, to load up your displays and your equipment and your inventory, the loading dock closed at 10:30. Now, someone's going to be like, they should have been set up by then. You know, there was traffic. So there's a lot of issues with that, okay? To cut it off then. Should have been open later, in my opinion. At least 11:30. Hopefully in the future, they know now to be like, hey, you know, be prepared for traffic, especially if you guys use this venue again. That closed at 10:30. So some people then had to go to a different lot to park and then bring all the stuff in, which is like what I was seeing with the vendors coming in from the front, carrying all their stuff or lugging their carts and things like that. Now, again, because it took people forever to get in, they were not only taking a while to set up, but they had all of their stuff in the aisles to get their displays ready to go, which was blocking the aisles. And allegedly, the fire marshal said, we can't open these doors until the aisles are clear. So people need to clear up the aisles, which is why in the announcements they were mentioning, like, keep the aisles clear. While I was waiting to get my food, when I ordered before they let everyone in, someone was like, what does VIP get? And I said, I don't know. I'm inside right now. I think that's it.
So they finally started letting people in just before 12. So almost an hour late, which is not good. But I don't think I need to tell you that.
Now, what I thought was very interesting about all of this is that basically the way the venue is broken up is that you went in through the front and then you're right into the expo area. Now, right in front of you, the expo area is Sneaker Expo, and then Anime Impulse is like right there. Now, the aisles are kind of broken up in a little bit of an interesting way, where the artist alley is like back in the corner. Along the outside wall is the meet and greet section like normal. But there's a few different areas that are the K-Play booths. Then there's a few aisles that are Anime Impulse specifically, and then there's a few aisles that are Sneaker Expo. This is the expo hall, okay? So this is where the main separation is happening. Then past that, okay, right, if you came in and immediately went to the right, is the arcade/entertainment hall. This is where a bunch of photo backdrops were for if you want to take photos and cosplay. This is the same thing that happened at AX. And there's also an actual arcade with like games and things in the middle. And the ticket spot for pickup tickets, will call, and also buying tickets to the ticketed events. Barely went over there because I didn't have tickets to anything. And then past that was the waiting area for meet and greets for different VTubers. Then behind that was a big closed off stage area where these ticketed events were happening. And then on the other side in the back corner, you could not get through it on this side, but you would go all the way around. That is where the food area was and the sitting area was. Lots of tables and chairs. Obviously those fill up very quickly, but there was quite a bit, so I can't knock them for that at all. But what I thought was very interesting about the expo area and the different, like, this is all one thing. In my head, this was all Anime Impulse, okay? And my friends were like, yeah, this is how it normally is. It's like multiple events in one, okay? But like all under the umbrella of Anime Impulse. Pretty much everyone thought they were like their own thing. And so like I wasn't dressed, you know, weebish, I guess you could say. I was wearing a t-shirt and jeans and sneakers most days. The Sneaker Expo people, one, they kept calling it Sneaker Con, which I thought was interesting. Multiple people were like, what brings you to Sneaker Con and all this stuff? Where like people thought that like they were only there for Sneaker Con. And like, if you were in the SneakerCon area, you were there for SneakerCon. But if you bought a ticket to SneakerCon, I'm assuming you got the Anime Impulse, which got you into SneakerCon. So like, it's all in one, but like some people were like assuming that they were only there for those things. K-Play, the same thing for Anime Impulse. And I was like, I'm here for all of it. But I guess technically this is all under the umbrella of Anime Impulse. So I guess technically I'm here for Anime Impulse. You get what I'm saying? Also, what was interesting as well was the card people. The first day, their registration line was very long as well. And so it's like a bunch of dads and their sons, because that's who I was clocking mainly, in like different sports memorabilia, shirts, baseball jerseys, all this stuff, and then weeps. Cosplay, walking by them. A very funny visual. I have to admit, it was fun.
These are the aisles empties. So a lot of them are very big, which is good. It's the artist alleys that are a little smidge tighter.
The only time where I found any real congestion was in an artist alley, which unfortunately seems to be an ongoing problem with a lot of these events. Some of the aisles were really spread out. Some of them were really cramped. And I just think that that's something where you had the space, you could have made that work a little more. Even if it's adding just an extra foot in there, it might seem like that's really spread out, but you could do it in certain areas. So I don't know why you weren't expanding just a little bit more, okay? And that's for accessibility purposes, that is for safety, that is for, you know, movability, especially because there were certain venues, certain shops that had very long lines very quickly. Specifically, there was this one, so I wanted to say Boobalicious Prince, and that's just kind of the only way I can say it, where they actually, like, they weren't like NSFW, they were lewd, if that, not even that, like the implication of lewd. I guess. Corny? What would you call that? I didn't take photos because I try not to take photos of art when I'm in artist alleys, because when I was younger, I got screamed at for that. And I was like, okay, cool, I've learned my lesson. Understandable. A few artist booths where I was like, okay, I vaguely recognize this style, which means they've been there before, you know, and I've seen them at other events and stuff. So they're like a popular established artist within that space. You get what I'm saying? But those booths obviously gain lines because they're popular for a reason. And so when those artist alley booths have lines, that then blocks off the artist alley for other booths and things like that. And then now you have congestion, and that can happen very quickly in spaces like this. Luckily, this area is much bigger than, say, where the annex was and all of that in the artist alley space for Anime Expo. So that was that. The air circulation was much better here. If anything, I would say there were multiple times in the convention hall where it was actually cold, I would say, for Anime Impulse, which is better than I Can't Breathe. And then against the back wall was a stage. Now, this is where they had a couple of live bands and live performances, but this was also where the panels were. And so their microphones had to be pretty loud. This, again, was just an open convention area. There's no sound nullification for the fact that you're in a literal expo hall. There's also no chairs to sit in this area. So there was a lot of times where people would just be sitting on the floor or standing around like crazy. Now, standing around, I guess you get a good crowd going, but also, could you not stick this like one floor up or something? I don't know. I just think like sound-wise, time-wise, space-wise, I get it, but some of these were like really empty. I think chairs would have been a good addition to this area, or moving it, or even flipping it so that the crowd is facing the noise versus the speakers facing the expo hall. You get my point? Like you actually have like, it almost be a divider. If you have like, let's say the expo hall is here. There's got to be a better way for me to explain these things to you. So let's say this is the building, okay? So you got the expo hall here, okay, this way. And then you've got the stage here, and you put the stage here, and then the crowd actually against that back wall, so that the sound isn't just going out into the expo hall, it's going against that back wall and bouncing a little better. Yes, it's goofy looking because they're looking at a wall and a group of people, but it's going to be better for sound, and also it's going to be less awkward because you're not going to be able to see that no one's really there. You have just have signs maybe, or like, hey, like panels here, panel schedule, even printed on that wall. But then you have the big Anime Impulse banner on that backside of that stage for photos and things like that. So people are naturally going to go over there because, oh my God, I want a photo with the Anime Impulse banner. Oh my God. And then they're going to be like, wait, what's this panelist? Oh my gosh, I love Professor Lando. Is that his name? And so I think that is a way to deal with the sound issue if you want to keep them all in the one room.
It's definitely filled out a lot more. The food area, I went over there and I was like, oh, maybe I'll get some bao. No, that's not happening. It's insane over there. Absolutely fucking insane.
Past to the front was another stage. Now this was the K-Play stage. Now the K-Play stage was interesting to me, and I think this was probably the most fascinating part of this for me as someone who is, I'm going to be frank with you, I'm not super into K-pop. I know, I'm sorry, I apologize. I say this, I feel like once every 5 videos, and I'm sorry, I'm not. Some songs, yes. Am I hardcore into any particular group? No. But this is what made it really interesting to me, was to see all these different groups and routines doing full choreographed songs and performances on some instances, other times just dances to different K-pop songs and all of that. And I just thought that was really interesting. And they were good. Like, no, there were no one I watched where I was like, you guys booked a slot for this? No, they were good. I was like genuinely impressed. I can't move like that. There was this one that I watched where it was like a full intricate performance with like all the different elements of the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Impressive. They had costume changes and everything. Like, it was so good. There was also a portion day 1 where I don't know, I'm assuming they did this day 2 as well, but they would do like basically like surprise dances where they would do different K-pop songs, like music video clips, and would do like 10 seconds, 15 seconds plays of those where it would be like, okay, like, hey, we're going to play a song, you try and dance to it. And everyone would run out and start doing the choreography for these different dances. And that was really cool to see, like, this group of people being like, oh, I don't know this one. I knew this one. It's just impressive. I can't do that. You know, I think that's cool. That's fun. They also had like their own little mini artist alley that was still connected to the big part of the artist alley, but it was also like very specifically like the K-pop section was like separated a little bit. One table specifically had a Germa section. I did take a photo of this because I was so confused. Germa, the streamer, is he integrated with K-pop? I didn't know this. Let me know, because this was adorable. I thought it was adorable. So the sneaker section was interesting. And what I liked about this as well is I'm not a sneakerhead. I'm not going to pretend to be a sneakerhead. I like shoes. I have a bunch of sneakers, but I'm not a sneakerhead. What I thought was fascinating was the prevalent nature of these shoes in Sneaker Expo. These apparently are the holy grail. These are the Lightning McQueen Crocs from the Cars universe. Now, I know people who have these. I know people who are hunting for these, okay? These things were almost every single table that I saw had a pair of these that they were selling. Literally, Sunday of Sneaker Expo, Crocs announces these are coming back. Basically tanked the value. And there were some really cool shoes, some really cool customs, some really cool hand-painted ones. Some were done very poorly where it's like, I don't want to pay for creping, on my sneakers when I don't need to do that. I didn't buy any sneakers while I was there. There was a few racing jackets, and I was looking for a couple of Formula One ones. None of them had them. They did have a Ferrari one, but it was not Formula One Ferrari. And as I was holding it, I saw a big ass spider crawl out of the collar, and I immediately dropped it and put it back and was like, no, thank you. That was Sunday when that happened, and I ended up leaving because I kept feeling like there were spiders crawling all over me the rest of the day. So I didn't make it much longer after the spider incident. Stop. I did end up buying a really cool ESPN jacket, though, from another booth, which I liked. I tried to buy something from each group. My friend's birthday is coming up. For clarification, my friend likes Into the Spider-Verse. She doesn't dislike the character of Miguel O'Hara, but she doesn't like the fact that he has infected her TikTok For You page. So naturally, I bought her titties out Miguel O'Hara mouse pad. I got a few other things as well. And a few of you that were working there, just gifted me stuff, which was very sweet. At one point, someone came up to me the first day and did a drive-by and gave me a bunch of notepads. And then the next day she came up again and I was like, you gotta stop doing this. And she gave me a bag of more stuff. Thank you, but you guys gotta stop.
All right. Day 2. We shall see how this goes. It is 11:02. Some people are still sitting up again. So I think it's going to be a lot of what happened yesterday. We shall see.
The doors did open 5 minutes late, which is obviously nowhere near 50 minutes late, so that's nothing. I think the whole first day could have been avoided if they had warned that it was Saturday near Disneyland. That, I hope that was in the vendor package. There were a few vendors that I spoke to that were frustrated because they were set up on time. And because the doors weren't open that first hour, they weren't making any sales in that time. And so they were like, I almost want to ask for a refund for that time slot, which is when you break down the cost of a table, that does come down to very little, but that still is, not nothing, especially when you're an artist. And a few people I talked to, it's yeah, I've only been doing this for a few months now. I don't have the money to not be making money, basically. So I understand people being frustrated because especially if you were able to get things set up, regardless of the issues and all of that, and the things not being open is frustrating. I met a psychic there who may or may not have actually had a table because she was there day 1 and then day 2 moved to another spot. And I have this thing now where at events where if I see a psychic, I get a reading done. And it was a very quick reading, not inaccurate, but you know how these things go. And then she was like, you have blocks emotionally in place. I said, duh. Also fascinating with Sneaker Expo was there was a few people who I think were not vendors, were not buyers, but were actually brought sneakers in to sell, just in the aisles on the floor. It was interesting in this because there's quite a few events where they actually explicitly forbid vending on the floor unless you have a pre-approved agreement or you've signed the vendor price or whatever, whatever it is. There's typically something in place to say you are not allowed to sell on the floor. But the fact that there was so much vending here, on the floor in the middle, I was interested by because it's, in some instances, I'm assuming that they bought sneakers or they had brought 1 or 2 sneakers or something. And they were I want to see if you have, what will you give me for this, that type of thing. But in some instances, they had full on carts and they were I can do this for you. I can do that for you, selling things in the middle of the aisles and things like that. And I just thought that was interesting. Now I'm assuming that, again, this is my first experience in a sneaker con expo thing. So I'm not sure how prevalent this is in those events. But I would be interested to see how, if they had gone and started doing this, let's say in the aisles dedicated to Anime Impulse, how would that have flied? Get what I'm saying? Would that have been a problem? Something else that I saw here that I don't think I've actually physically seen advertised at other events. I saw at least 2, I'm assuming there were more, people advertising photos in their cosplays where they would specifically step, stand, or sit on you. $2, $3, $5, etc., or even just getting paid to step on you. Do you make your coin? But like that was interesting to me because like you would think I know there's like a joke, you know, with anime conventions and cosplay conventions and the like, where it's like, oh yeah, I want this photo of this character sitting on me or whatever, you know, stepping on me, whatever. Like, oh, please step on me, mommy. I think that's very prevalent, those styles of photos at these events. But this is the first event that I've been to, I would say, where I've seen these signs. Now, is that to say that these signs don't exist at other events? Of course not. They probably totally do. But I just thought that was interesting because this is advertising, again, in a sense, vending, selling photos, selling a physical experience. Sounds odd when I say it like that, but like it's a type of vending essentially when you're doing that. And so I thought that was interesting. And so I was wondering if maybe that's why like the same thing was happening with Sneaker Expo, is that those particular vending rules are not in place for this particular event. And that is why I saw these signs here versus at other events. Previously, I was told that they had used a different venue where it was like half inside, half outside. And so it would be like half of the venue would be like really hot inside and then the other half would actually be in the sun. So the fact that this was an entirely indoor venue, including the line experience, that is already a step up because you don't have to worry about people getting sunburned. And it's also hot as hell. It's August. Okay, it is not pleasant in Southern California right now. It just isn't. The venue I think is good. I think you can keep it here. I wouldn't be surprised about spreading it out a bit more, moving the walls around a bit, because I think you can do that just a smidgen to maybe move the line a little bit more to the side and have a little more venue space. I think if anything else, just like planning with vendors and things like that, because some people were very frustrated, you know, with the parking situation and the loading dock situation, all that. I think a little bit more communication with that would be better. And then also something that I thought was very much lacking was employee presence on the floor. Now, some of them I could see because I can clock a radio, but a few of them most of the time they were not identifiable. And I always think that's a problem. You need to have some form of an identifiable uniform, shirt, something that's not just a walkie-talkie tucked under a corner, like the corner of your shirt. Okay. I think there should be something identifiable for in case of emergencies, security purposes, things like that. You need something identifiable, in my opinion. All in all, I would go again. This was fun. I do want to check out one of the other locations, probably LA, because that's where I live. But like, you know, it'll be interesting to see in the future. We'll see if I get invited back. Probably not. But that's kind of the fun thing about buying tickets, is I can do that. Have you ever been to Anime Impulse? Have you ever been to K-Play Fest? Have you ever been to Sneaker Expo? Are you a sneakerhead? Are you a K-pop stanny army fan army? Are you a weeb? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder that I have a podcast, the Swell Shenanigans podcast. Reminder that Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. This episode will be available tomorrow. Go check it out. I don't know if there will be merch for this. Maybe this is why I don't get invited to more things. I'm not sure. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you also like to support me on Patreon, list down below. Like to follow me on social media. That'll be all up here. And that's going to be Have a Lovely Day. Goodbye. So a few times what kept happening would someone be like, you look so familiar. Do I know you? Have you been to this event? And I hadn't. And I would be like, oh no, but like I'm a YouTuber, if that helps. It doesn't. Okay. And I would want to die. So when people started saying, I think I know you, but they didn't know how, I stopped saying from YouTube because I would rather die than experience that again. And so at one point someone was like, you're you? Simply, and I was shaking my head because I'm not simply nailogical. And her friend was like, she is not simply nailogical. She does not look Canadian. For all of the Amanda is Canadian truthers out there. I don't look Canadian.
Thank you, Amy, Andrew, Alan, Awful, Aslan, BJ, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Crispy, Crispy, Crash, China, Corey, Daniela, 31, Don, Donnie, Elliot, Evan, Eric, Eal, Ghostly, Hopeless, Homer, Incognito, Jasmine, Joe, John M, Jordan, Joseph, Justin, Kenny, Kim, Kristen, Lauren, Lamb, Lex, Lise, Luis, Mae West, Madeline, Matt, Matthew, Medic, Meme Lord, Michael, Michael J, Michael T, Micah, Nathaniel, Pat, Penn, Pink, Philip, Richard, Rob, Rosie, Red, Robert, Ross, Ryan, Sam, Serena, Skylar, Simon, Tasha, Timothy, Heavenly Plastic, Tyler, Tenzin, Tom, Thomas, QWERTY, Victor, Randy, Winter, Wendy, Will, William, Zendry, Zwink.